Hello and Namaste. Welcome to this session. This is probably the most important session of all the things what you have seen so far, because we are now going actually to edit the objects what you have been seeing all this time. You will agree that the earlier sessions have shown you the options to add the objects and place them at desired locations, move them around, scale them and do certain modifications to them. This session will talk about two important modes of interacting with a 3D object in Blender. The commonly used object mode, which you have already seen, but the mode where you can modify it, which is called the edit mode. And how do you modify it? Well, you have three different components of a given object, which are the vertex, a edge or a face. The object mode is the most common because whenever you open Blender, the object mode is on by default. You have already seen how you can play with this object mode, because you can grab, you can rotate or you can scale a particular object. This is actually the crux of today's session, where we will see how you can modify or edit a particular object. The moment I do this edit option, then it allows me to go further deep into the object and then provides me the options to selectively change the parameters of individual components. Now let us see an example of a cube. A cube is made up of multiple components. What are these components? These are the vertices, the edges and the faces. A vertex is a single point or a dot. Two vertices will make an edge, which is a line, and three or more vertices will make a face or an area. Combination of these three things will result into a model. Every model which is provided as a default model in Blender will consist of these components in various number. For example, in the same object of cube, you will have 8 vertices, 12 edges and 6 faces. You know that probably because you must be familiar with something called a dice, which has 6 faces. Now, if you want to further edit any one of the components in the cube, then you have to go to a different mode. That mode is called as edit mode in Blender. How to go to edit mode? Well, the shortcut is simple. On keyboard, just press tab and you will enter the edit mode. If you want to use the mouse, then you go to the drop down menu at the bottom panel of 3D viewport, which will be giving you options of object mode basically as a default setting, but if you click on that, a pop-up will rise and then you can select the second option called the edit mode. I would recommend right now don't go into the other modes because we will have to see them at the advanced levels. Just restrict yourselves to object mode and edit mode right now. Okay, coming back to the point. The moment we get into the edit mode, you see that the object has now become orange in color and you can see the edges and the vertices right now selected because the change of color. At this point, the color change has happened because all the vertices and all the edges are selected. In order to select and deselect the number of components in the particular scene, the shortcut is A. A stands for all. So the moment I press A, you can see that none of them are selected right now. The moment I press A again, you see that all of them are selected. This can be a very useful tool, especially when you want to give certain command to all the components of a particular model. I said just now that the moment you get into edit mode, you can see all the vertices, edges and faces. However, right now you are able to see only the faces which are in the front, and you are unable to see the faces which are at the back. To enable that, there is a mode called wireframe mode. Here there is slight confusion because the shortcut is not very intuitive. You have to press Z to get into the wireframe mode. The moment I press Z, I can see the complete model in a wireframe format. And again, this is a toggle key. So if you press Z again, it will come back to the initial setting, which is opaque from the front. So you can only see 3 faces at this point. Here is an important tip to remember. The moment you switch from object mode to edit mode, it will get into the vertex selection mode by default. What I mean is that all the vertices present in the model will be automatically selected the moment you get into the edit mode. We are in the object mode right now where the cube is selected. The moment I press tab, I go to the edit mode. Within edit mode, you can see that all the vertices are selected. To change the selection type from vertex to edge or to face, the shortcut is Control tab. The moment you press Control tab, a pop-up will appear on screen which will give you 3 options: vertex, edge and face. Depending on your choice, you can select any one of them and then you are free to edit them. For example, let us select a face right now. The moment you select face, you will see that a dot will appear at the center of each face, which is a black dot right now. If you have to edit that particular face, right click on the center of that dot and you see that this particular face is selected, and you know that because an orange line has appeared around that particular face. This particular face is now ready for editing, and you can just move your mouse to move the face in any axis. For example, I can move it on the right hand side and get the face elongated, or the object itself gets elongated because I moved the face around. Let us try the vertices selection now. The moment we press tab and go to the edit mode, you see that all the vertices are selected. Press A to get rid of this selection, and now selectively using the right click button, you can select any vertex. Like I can select this vertex, I can select this one, and like I said, I can use the handles around to move this particular vertex in the desired direction. Let us see the vertex selection using some other model. I will delete this model by pressing delete, and then using Shift A, I am going to add new model. This time I am going to take a sphere, a UV sphere. Okay, I zoom in a bit, and now if I press tab, I go to the edit mode. Here I see that all the vertices are selected. Press A to deselect all the vertices, and now using the mouse you can pinpoint on the vertex you want to have. Right. So I have selected this vertex right now. I get 3 arrows of 3 axes. I use the red axis to move this vertex forward, and now you can see that this particular vertex has come ahead, changing the model in a different way. You can do that thing for n number of vertices by clicking, selecting and then dragging them in different directions. Right now we are restricting ourselves just to grab that vertex and move around. You can also use the shortcut used in the object mode of G and moving this vertex. If you do not want it to be in a particular axis, then press G after you select the vertex, and now you can move it in any direction like you can see on screen right now. Okay, let us go and do the same thing for selecting a edge. Since the edges can be best seen using a cylinder, let us use a cylinder this time. Delete this object, and now I will take a fresh scene which will have a cylinder. I will press A to deselect everything. Now I will press Control tab to bring up the pop-up and select edge out of this. I will right click on the edge I want to select. I can see that it is selected, and then I will again use the arrows of axis to move this particular edge. I can also use the shortcut G to select and move the desired edge in any direction. In this scene, I have added a torus because that is slightly unusual shape and it has lot of interesting faces. I will press tab, go to the edit mode, there are so many faces. I will bring out the pop-up to select the faces and I will click on some faces by using right click button like this. Here if I want to select multiple faces, I can use shift whenever I am right clicking. So if I press shift and right click, I can select multiple faces at the same time and you can see that all these faces have turned orange the moment I am clicking them. Once I am done with my selection, I can use G for grab and all these faces are now selected, and the moment I move my mouse around, these faces will move accordingly. This is the shortcut you need to remember, that the multiple selection can be done by using shift and the right click of the mouse. Apart from the keyboard shortcut, there is also a panel given on the 3D window header. This panel has 3 icons on it which symbolize the vertex selection, edge selection and the face selection. There is a dot which is highlighted, a line which is highlighted and a face or a square is highlighted in these 3 buttons, and the corresponding selection can happen if you click on this button. Similarly, you need to remember that the shortcuts which you have used in the object mode can be applied in the edit mode also, like scale, rotate and grab. However, remember that scaling and rotating is not possible for one selection, which is vertex. Vertex cannot be rotated or even scaled. This can apply to edges and faces. You can keep trying different things and also look for the assignment which will be put up on the same topic. Till then, practice hard and we will see you after this practice and assignment. Thank you.